Hi everybody, welcome back to class. Can you believe we are 1/3 of the way done? I know that this may be a frustrating experience at times because there is so much reading to do and so much writing to do, but look at the bright side. In just 8 weeks, you're going to finish what it takes most people 16 weeks to do. A summer class is not for everybody, but I've been impressed how everybody is keeping up, so good work. We are going to cover class session 5. And let's take a look and see what we've got to do this week. There's a couple of chapters to read, I think, and 2 writing projects. One writing project number 2, and then a discussion board, which is actually going to be a lot of fun to look at. I'll show you an example in just a little bit. This is the analysis section. We're going to compare and contrast two like things. There are 2 chapters to read, chapter 7 and chapter 8. We're going to work on steps 1 through 6 of writing project number 2. In every writing project, you only do steps 1 through 6 first. Steps 7 through 10 are for the final version. So for this version, we're only writing a draft. Our analysis will be on 2 of the core readings. I'll give you more detail on that in just a minute. And there are 2 supplemental resources. I always mention that the supplemental resources are just that. Supplemental, do them if you think you need to, don't do them if you think you're good. But in this case, I'm going to recommend that everyone do them. You don't have to, it's up to you, but I think you're really going to need these. The first one is the library tutorial on how to find outside sources for your analysis paper. The analysis paper is the last one you write. It's the biggest one. It's worth the most amount of points, and it's a research paper. And in your research paper, you're going to be finding sources on your subject all through the Ivy Tech Library database. If you don't know how to find good sources, well, then you really need to take this tutorial. It'll be helpful. And then there's also a supplemental resource on MLA database citations. Again, it's supplemental, but I recommend you go through it. If you're not a whiz at MLA, and who is, this will be helpful. As always, skip the section on APA. We don't use that. Assignments and assessments, there is the draft of writing project number 2. And then there is a discussion board on everyday rhetorical analysis, which will help get you into the mindset of writing about the same subject from 2 different perspectives. Show you more in a minute. Let's take a look at the learning activities. Here's your textbook and the 2 chapters you have to read. I won't open that up, I know you will. Here are the steps for writing project number 2, steps 1 through 6. Pay attention, these are going to be a little bit different than what we did on writing project 1. If it ever opens. There we go. Again, we're only concerned with steps 1 through 6. For writing project number 2, you will analyze and compare 2 of the core readings. Now, the core readings should be on the same subject or covering the same content because you're going to examine how they're similar and how they're different. So you'll want to take 2 core readings from the same core reading folder. Don't pull an article about pollution and compare it to an article about education. That doesn't work. But can you write 2 core readings, both about education? Absolutely. That's what you should be doing. Now here's the part that's a little bit different. In the first writing project, I said you don't have to do a situational analysis. I didn't want you focusing on that just yet. But for this writing project, you will. The situational analysis is a separate page, not part of the essay, that describes the following. And this is from your perspective. Who are you writing for? What is the time and the place and the purpose? You'll find more about this in step 2 of chapter 3, as well as the second and third questions in step 2 of chapter 7. Your audience is me and the other folks in the class. And if you follow Chapter 3 and Chapter 7, this will be obvious for you. So again, it's a separate page. You still have to put a header on it. Then when you write your draft, don't include the situational analysis. Put a second header on it with your name, my name, the class name, and the date. And as I mentioned in some of the other videos, make sure that the date that you're using is the due date. This will be a little more clear when we take a look at this. 750 words for your draft. The final will be 1,000, but don't wig out on that just yet. Focus on the 750 words. In MLA style, of course, using in-text citations, and you're going to need to include some in-text citations. If you have one author saying the sky is blue and another author saying the sky is gray, well, you're going to need to quote each of them so you can then compare them. You'll need a list of works cited, of course, and you're going to have a minimum of 2 because you're comparing 2 articles. And this are the questions that you're trying to answer. How are they different? How are they similar in their credibility? How are they different? How are they similar in how the authors write about the theme? How are they different? How are they similar in their perspective? And on and on and on. I won't read all these to you because I know you'll print this out and read them yourself. These are the questions you're going to answer to write your first draft. And it is just a draft. There's step 5, and step 6 is simply turn it in. And you're going to turn the draft in to me, and you're also going to turn it into a discussion board. And the discussion board on this subject can get pretty interesting when 2 people write about the same core readings, which is perfectly acceptable. I like to see the difference in perspective. So steps 1 through 6, writing project 2. And there is one other simple and pretty entertaining discussion board upon which you are going to write. And this is to get you in the mindset of comparing 2 things. And I recommend you do this first before you work on the draft. I think you'll like it more. I think it will make more sense for you. And that is session 5 and session 6 in discussions everyday rhetorical analysis. I think we looked at everything through learning activities, but I just want to be sure. Review the core readings, of course, because you're going to compare 2 like things. Well, not 2 like things, 2 things on the same subject. There are the supplemental resources. Yep, that is everything. All right, let's jump back and look at the discussion board. And that's under assignments and assessments. And I added a resource that I'll point out to you that will help this become a little more clear. You are going to write a short discussion board, 100 words, about any of the following subjects. Excuse me, 2 monologues, each 100 words, so 200 words total, about any of these scenarios. You can completely make this up. Use your creativity. You could write about something real. You could take something real and embellish it and make it more interesting. It can be funny, it can be profound, it can be sad, whatever you'd like. But before you begin on that, you only have to answer one of these options. Take a look at the resources folder. And I taught this same class as a 16-week last semester. And I had a student who did this pretty well, and I liked it. And so I've included that as an example. This particular student, I won't name them, wrote about option number 3. And I thought this was well done. So read this first, maybe use it as an example. And this is about a person getting a speeding ticket, or at least getting pulled over for speeding and not getting a citation. I won't read it to you. I know you'll read it later, but this is a good example to follow. Now, not everybody should write about option 3 just because there's an example here. What I am saying is read this first, then look at the list of questions. Hopefully it'll give you some inspiration. Again, it's under the resources folder. Let's go back to class sessions. And I think all I have to do is point out where first draft of Writing Project 2 goes, and we should be able to wrap this up. There's tutor.com again. I know some of you have used it, and one student actually sent me the results so I could see what that looked like. It was interesting. And I think one other student said they sent something to tutor.com and as of yesterday hadn't gotten it back yet. I hope they have by now. Okay, here is where you're going to put Writing Project 2, your first draft, to me. And again, I will read it, give you some thoughts, some comments, and get it back to you as quick as I can so you can continue to work on it. You'll include it as a file, browse my computer, and send it to me that way. You don't have to make any comments in the comments box. Most of you don't, and that's fine. You don't have to say anything. And then also include it here. This is your draft of Writing Project 2. There's none in there now. Hit Create Thread, post what you wrote as a file so other students can read it and give you some feedback. That is it for session 5. The video on session 6 will be coming up next. Again, text me anytime, 812-498-4200. Email me, mstenger and the number 1 at ivytech.edu. If you want to call me, 800-416-1747. Don't be afraid to call. I welcome it. And I'll see everybody in the next video.